I'm spraying with sulfur and copper soap, the Cueva brand of copper soap, and also some seaweed extract, kelp grow. If you don't spray for powdery mildew, it can destroy all the bloom of most varieties and you'll get 0 mangoes that year. So powdery mildew is the biggest enemy of our mango fruit production here in South Florida. Anthracnose comes next, but that is our worry in warm, wet weather. Powdery mildew is our worry in cool, non-rainy weather, but when the humidity is high. The powdery mildew does require high air humidity for the spores to germinate. But if it rains, the spores get washed off.
So this is the time of the year to spray mango trees, especially the blooms. And Har has been spraying. I'm not sure how many loads you got out this morning, but he has been spraying, and right now he is ready to talk about what he was just doing.
Yeah, I did 3 loads. These tiny tanks, with 35 gallons. And I was just spot spraying using this spray gun. Now, full coverage is better when one is spraying against powdery mildew, but I don't find it very practical to try to get full coverage with the type of equipment that we have. The most important coverage that we need is on the flowers and on new growth. And that's easy to hit because almost all of it is on the outside of the trees. And I do spray each of them from at least 2 angles. So I get very good coverage of the most susceptible parts of the tree that get attacked by powdery mildew and by mites. Some people accuse me of using hazmat outfits. I am not. This is paper, cellulose, that sprayers, that painters wear to keep paint off their clothes. And I like to keep most of the sulfur and soap off my clothes. It is kind of stinky, and it also is somewhat irritating to the skin. So keeping most of it off helps. You can probably see that some parts of this are actually soaking wet, and that does mean some of it has soaked through into my clothing. Anyway. So this is not appropriate for any seriously toxic pesticides. And I'm wearing some light duty, cleaning gloves when you use household cleaning supplies. And this is your familiar KN95 that people are trying to get nowadays for COVID. This is not the best. I prefer the ones with the opening that lets your exhaled air out quickly. When you don't have that trapdoor opening, the mask does get hot and uncomfortable. But it's not good to breathe any kind of dust, even food dust like wheat flour dust, and certainly sulfur dust would be irritating also. And of course, even when you put it out in water, when the water dries away, what you have left is dust. So, and this is an electric lineman's helmet that I've modified here. No, the electric linemen like to keep flipping the shield up and down. I don't want it to flip, and I don't want spray that lands in the hat to go on down through inside. So that's why I've closed it off here. Actually screwed on the helmet and then sealed it off with duct tape. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? But it does keep most stuff off my face. And if I'm spraying anything that's more serious, then I also wear safety glasses under that. In high humidity weather, though, sometimes the safety glasses fog up when one's wearing this sort of a mask that doesn't have a vent. So I did not wear safety glasses today. The next spray that I put out will be what I call the open bloom mix, which is mostly nutritional, and that's more complex. But this mix also works in open bloom, but doesn't have a high nutritional content, although we do have the kelp grow in here, which is nutritional, but at a very mild rate. Kelp grow or any other seaweed extract has pretty much all the trace nutrients that plants need that we tend not to get in other fertilizers, including possible nutrients that have never been proved to be of use to plants, but that some people think are useful, or at least to some species. That's all present in the kelp grow. So we basically cover our behind for any of those possibilities by including seaweed extract in our spray mixes. And it does include well-known nutrients like nitrogen, 0.5% of nitrogen. We don't put out granular fertilizer with nitrogen on these big mango trees, but they do get trace amounts of nitrogen in these spray mixes from the kelp grow. There's also potassium, about 1%, and calcium and zinc and manganese and iron and so on. Ideally, one would use different spray mixes for different stages of bloom. The barely emerging bloom could be sprayed with a pretty strong copper mix that you don't want to spray on open bloom. In recent years, especially in this grove that has 80 different varieties, they're blooming on different branches and different trees at different times, so there's all stages of bloom and no bloom yet and so on. So it's not real practical to select out the different stages of bloom for special spray mixes. If you have a tree or two and you're using a backpack sprayer and whatever, you might mix up just 1 gallon of something and pick and choose what you spray. But I have not been doing that today, except that I've been totally skipping the trees that had no bloom on them.